Folks, I've got here Getting Rich Without Capitalism. People have asked me, hey Caleb, why don't you do an audiobook? Well, I'm not going to do a full audiobook, but just for the fun of it, just for something to do here on a Saturday afternoon in my Brooklyn apartment, I am going to read to you from the introduction of my book. So bear with me. I'm only going to read for a little while, but maybe you'll like it. This is the introduction to Getting Rich Without Capitalism by Caleb Maupin. A dramatic reading. Not dramatic, I'm just going to read you. Almost all people have some desire to be rich. That's why so many people play the lottery. That's why reality TV shows portraying the lives of wealthy people are so popular. There's nothing wrong with aspiring to become wealthy. I'm just going to hold the book here in shot so people know what I'm reading. There's nothing wrong with aspiring to become wealthy. To be wealthy means a huge level of safety. Rich people don't have to worry about losing their jobs, their homes, or whether they can pay their bills. Rich people have time to pursue their own dreams and aspirations without being chained to a desk or an assembly line, toiling away for some boss. In the world that we live in, wealth means power, and those who want to do good in the world and try to change things for the better often wish they had a huge pile of cash to pour into their noble efforts. There is nothing wrong with wanting a better life. Nobody wants to be poor. Poverty is a state of being defined by deprivation. Poor people are without quality living conditions. To be poor often means lacking basic services like healthcare and education. Around the world, to be poor often means to be malnourished, and even for those who are not malnourished, their access to food is below basic standards. The U.S. Department of Agriculture keeps track of food insecurity and says that at this point, even in the USA, supposedly the richest country in the world, 41.2 million people, including 6.5 million children, are food insecure. Many young Americans go into debt paying for their education, hoping that with a degree they can get a better job and be more financially stable. Many working-class Americans are diligently saving their money in order to invest it in the stock market, hoping that they have a shot of getting ahead and living a life of luxury and security. Things aren't going too well in America these days. If you walk through the neighborhoods in Detroit, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Chicago, or other industrial centers in the heartland, you will see many empty, foreclosed homes. The next generation of Americans are dealing with the fact that they will not have the good standard of living that their parents once had. The good-paying industrial jobs are gone, and even the retail jobs are starting to dry up as big-box stores close down. The income of average Americans is dropping, and Walmart is being replaced by Dollar General. The decline of the American standard of living isn't just causing us to tighten our belts. Along with it are a whole new layer of societal problems. Young people are stuck in low-wage jobs, living with their parents and turning to drugs. Opioid deaths are rising to epidemic levels. The humiliation and shame, the stress and the fear, the insecurity experienced by so many Americans is certainly playing a role in the number of mass shootings and suicides. To not be able to support oneself, to be deprived of the ability to have your own home or your own life, to start your own family, is destroying the mental health of millions. But who is keeping you from becoming rich? Under such circumstances, it is no wonder that shows like The Real Housewives of New Jersey and Rags to Riches are popular. Plans for getting rich, or more accurately, finding a way out of poverty and decay, isn't just an afternoon fantasy or a daydream. It is the burning urgency. No one wants to have their life turned into another statistic. No one wants to feel that they have failed in life. While things are going badly for millions of Americans, some people are getting rich. Perhaps the best way to describe it is getting richer, because these folks were pretty rich to begin with. I'm talking about the payday lenders who take advantage of people living paycheck to paycheck and figured out ways to suck even more money out of those who are already struggling to get by. I'm talking about the pharmaceutical companies that have consciously pushed doctors to overprescribe opioids and get people hooked. I'm talking about the fat cats who own the steel companies and auto giants and close down their factories in the United States, shipping jobs to countries where they can get away with paying lower wages. I'm talking about the prison contractors who see crime and mass incarceration as a way to make bigger profits. I'm talking about the corporations and companies that lay off their hardworking employees who get paid minimum wage and replace them with convicted criminals who work for pennies an hour inside the prison system. I'm talking about the big corporations who get paid to make bombs, drones, tanks, and weapons of mass destruction. The CEOs who are sending sons and daughters of the American heartland to the Middle East as seeing war as a great business opportunity. The problem with these people isn't that they are getting rich. The problem with these people is that they are already rich, and now they are getting richer by making this country and the world poorer. There is no reason for the American people to be getting poor. Oil and natural gas are the most valuable resources in the world, and we have plenty of them right here in America. America is actually the top natural gas producer in the world and third in oil. Despite a huge boom in natural resources and energy production, we as a country are continuing to get poorer. The people getting rich from our oil and natural gas and the coal beneath our feet have names like Rockefeller, Carnegie, Morgan, Rothschild, and DuPont. The same clique of international bankers that are getting us into wars and signing us up for crooked job-killing trade deals are getting rich from our natural resources. On election day, these billionaires put up Republicans or Democrats. They'll talk about how they love God and country, but how patriotic can they be when they are grinding the working families of this country into greater poverty while they set up one global financial dictatorship? The only God these people worship is money. Cutting their taxes and liberalizing the market isn't going to help you or me at all. The policies pushed by the two major parties are making these bloodsuckers even more rich while making the rest of us even poorer. But imagine if things were different. Imagine that the profits from America's booming oil and natural gas resources were going into the public treasury. Imagine that this money could be used to build high-speed railways, connecting the heartland of America to the coasts. Imagine this money could be used to refurbish our university system. So once again, we were churning out the smartest engineers and scientists in the world and making huge scientific breakthroughs in fields like fusion energy and artificial intelligence. We could assemble the smartest technicians, architects, and visionaries to create a 5-year plan to completely remake the United States from top to bottom. With the money now being wasted on foreign wars and bailouts and tax credits, we could dispatch a brain trust to directly organize the population to build a whole new America. Imagine every unemployed American between the age of 18 and 30 being hired into an army of American rebirth. This army could be dispersed across the country in bright green uniforms to rebuild our crumbling water systems, refurnish our schools, build new storm levees, construct new efficient power plants, all while getting paid a decent wage to do it. Beyond this, imagine that our steel mills and auto factories were hiring once again, and it was guaranteed that they wouldn't be moved overseas because these vital industries were owned by the American people and not operated to make a profit. The wages of auto workers and steel workers would be carefully regulated by law, as would the price of steel in American-made cars. Imagine the banks giving subsidies and loans to young Americans to start their own companies, launch high-tech startups, design their own innovative business models. Instead of banks ripping off working families with predatory loans or wrecking small businesses with crippling debt, money lending would be in the hands of the state. Under a monopoly on financial credit, the government credit would be granted not so bankers could make money, but based on what the local community and the country needed overall. Interest from state loans would go into the public treasury, paying for more public services, scientific research, technology, and construction. In this new America, healthcare facilities, from the drug manufacturers to the hospitals to the local pediatrician's offices, would be under public control. Healthcare would be guaranteed to everyone as a basic human right, and drug prices would be set by central planners in order to ensure that they were affordable. The life and health of the American people would no longer be left in the hands of those who seek to make a profit, but would be in the hands of the entire community. Educating the youth would become a national priority, not a place for student loan sharks and charter school grant hustlers to make money. Children would stop being cogs in a decaying educational machine and instead become a national priority, with everyday Americans understanding that it was their patriotic duty to make sure that the kids of tomorrow have a better life than we have today. And yes, in the context of this new America, in which society was being organized according to a rational plan, you and other people in your community could get rich quite easily. Your opportunities would soar. The chances of you and your family moving ahead in the world would be astronomical. The standard of living would increase, and the kind of innovation and creativity displayed by Americans in the past would resurface stronger than ever before. This vision of the United States, in which the population is unleashed to become prosperous, and the hope for working hard to become wealthy is no longer restricted to the hands of a privileged few, has a name. It is called socialism. Now, that's not what you thought socialism was. You thought socialism was raising your taxes. You thought socialism was some guy in a fur hat coming to seize your house and your car. You wouldn't be alone in thinking that. Socialism has certainly been smeared and slandered. But the kind of drastic transformation of a country that I've just described as the potential socialist vision for the United States is exactly what socialism did in Russia, China, Cuba, Korea, Venezuela, Vietnam, and so many other parts of the world. Before 1917, Russia was an agrarian country led by a feudal czar. By 1936, it was producing more steel than any other country in the world. When Stalin put the peoples of the Soviet Union into motion with his 5-year plans, the world's largest hydroelectrical power plant, the Dnepr Dam, was built. In just a few years, the Soviet Union became a booming center of the global economy, churning out more steel, more tractors, and constructing modern housing at a faster rate than any other country in the world. At the same time the rest of the planet was having a Great Depression, Roosevelt sent members of his administration to Moscow to directly observe the process. The Soviet Union's great construction projects were part of the inspiration for the Works Progress Administration and the Hoover Dam, Key West Highway, LaGuardia Airport, and so many other beautiful landmarks in the USA. China had no steel mills in 1949. Today it produces half the steel in the world in a state-controlled, centrally planned economy, managed by the China Steel and Iron Association. China now has the largest telecommunications manufacturer in the world. China has lifted 700 million people out of poverty and is building high-speed railways, stadiums, hydroelectrical power plants, water treatment facilities, and a huge amount of other necessities of life. In Africa, Latin America, Central Asia, Eastern Europe, the Chinese state-controlled machinery of production is humming along, laying foundations, hoisting rails, and lighting up the night sky with electricity. And do you think that this is making Chinese people poor? Are they being taxed into oblivion to pay for it all? On the contrary. Every day another Chinese person becomes a millionaire, and every week another Chinese billionaire is created. Even CNN admits that Chinese people are getting wealthier every day. Well, that's what I'm reading to you. That's from my new book, Getting Rich Without Capitalism.